I want you to do something right now, just once. Swallow once and notice exactly what happens inside your throat. Feel that thickness sitting and coating the back of your throat, that heaviness that refuses to leave no matter what you do. You have probably been clearing your throat dozens of times today, and if I asked when it started, you honestly could not say. It crept into your life so quietly and so incredibly slowly. First, it was only mornings, then it became the entire day. Now it is simply part of who you are every day. You carry water everywhere you go without even thinking about it. You avoid certain foods automatically without even thinking twice about it. You have tried every single home remedy anyone has ever suggested, and yet here you are, still dealing with the exact same problem. Here is what I need you to hear and truly understand. That mucus sitting in your throat right now is not random. It is not simply your age finally and inevitably catching up. Your body does not produce symptoms randomly or without very specific reason. Every persistent symptom is your body communicating something deeply and specifically important. The real question is whether you actually know how to listen. And today, I am going to teach you exactly how to do that. In my experience working with older adults in preventive health settings daily, I have seen this symptom of persistent throat mucus misunderstood constantly. People are handed lozenges and simply told to drink more water. They are dismissed without the actual underlying cause ever being addressed. Today, we are going to change that situation completely for you. I'm going to walk you through 5 research-supported causes today. These are causes specifically relevant to adults over the age of 55. And I'm going to do something most videos never actually do. I will tell you which 2 causes are almost certainly combined right now, because they almost always work together, and most people never realize it. I will explain how that combination makes everything dramatically and unnecessarily worse. My commitment to this community has always been plain language and real research. I give you practical steps you can begin using starting tonight after watching. Before we go further, I want you to drop a comment below. Tell me whether your throat mucus is worse first thing in the morning, or does it stay with you and linger throughout your entire day? Because your answer to that one question tells me quite a lot. It reveals what is actually driving this problem inside your specific body. Write the word morning or all day in the comments right now. I read every single comment personally and genuinely want to know your experience. Now let us get into the biology that changes everything you understand. Your body produces mucus every single day without stopping, around the clock, and that is completely normal and completely healthy and nothing to fear whatsoever. Mucus is your body's natural protective coating for all of your airways. It catches bacteria, dust particles, and viruses before they can settle deeper. It keeps the delicate tissue lining your throat moist and resilient always. Without mucus, your airways would dry out and crack and become vulnerable. They would become exposed to every single pathogen and irritant you encounter. Mucus is not your enemy here and never has been at all. Mucus is actually your body's most faithful and reliable daily protector. The problem is not the mucus itself, but what happens to it over time. Here is something research has confirmed clearly, but doctors rarely ever explain. There is a system in your body called mucociliary clearance that matters. Your airways are lined with millions of microscopic hair-like structures called cilia. Their entire job is to sweep mucus upward and outward all day. They work millions of times daily without you ever once noticing them working. In a younger adult, this system is both efficient and remarkably fast.
Mucus gets produced and cleared almost instantly before it can ever accumulate. But studies confirm that as we age, these cilia slow down considerably. They beat less frequently and far less powerfully than they once did. and the result is that mucus now sits and pools where it moved. What would have been swept clear in mere seconds at age 40 lingers. At age 65 or 70, that same mucus can sit for hours. What this means practically is that any factor pushing your body matters enormously. Any factor driving excess mucus production will hit much harder in older adults. It will also last significantly longer than it would in any younger person. That is not a complaint about aging, but simply a fact of physiology. And understanding it is the true foundation of everything we discuss here today. So with that biological context firmly in place, here are your 5 causes. Listen carefully because I will tell you which specific causes tend to stack together. The first cause is the one I want you to pay closest attention to. Research consistently shows it is the most frequently missed explanation of all. It is called laryngopharyngeal reflux, and you may have never heard that term. Let me explain it to you in the plainest possible language right now. Most people are familiar with heartburn, that burning feeling after a heavy meal. That is classic acid reflux, and most people have experienced it before. But there is a quieter and far more deceptive version of this exact problem, one with absolutely no chest burning and no obvious digestive discomfort whatsoever. Just a throat that simply will not settle down and keeps bothering you. Here is exactly what happens deep inside your body when this occurs regularly. At the junction where your esophagus meets your stomach sits a muscular ring. It is called a valve, and its only job is to stay tightly closed. It must stay closed after you eat, keeping stomach acid safely locked away below. As we age, this valve can gradually lose tone, just like a rubber band. Like a rubber band that has been stretched too many times and lost elasticity. And when that valve does not close completely, stomach acid begins traveling upward, not just into the esophagus, but all the way up into your throat. It can reach the voice box and sometimes even the nasal passages above. Now here is the biological detail that makes this situation so deeply significant. The tissues of your throat are simply not built to handle acid at all. Even the smallest trace of acid reaching your throat triggers an immediate protective response. Your body rushes to produce thick mucus to coat and protect that irritated tissue. This is completely logical biology, and your body is doing exactly the right thing. But when this happens night after night while you are lying flat, sleeping, you wake up every single morning to that same familiar heaviness at the back. And you have absolutely no idea why, because there is no heartburn present. There is no chest pain and no obvious clue pointing toward your stomach whatsoever. Research published in clinical ENT literature shows something that will genuinely surprise you. Up to half of all people with this condition report no heartburn ever. Just chronic throat clearing and a voice that sounds noticeably rough every morning, and mucus that begins accumulating the very moment they open their eyes each day. Ask yourself honestly whether your throat feels significantly worse in the morning hours. Does it worsen specifically when you bend forward or lean over to pick something up? Has your voice sounded noticeably different or rougher when you first wake up lately? These are the classic fingerprints of silent reflux, and they are very recognizable signs. One additional note here that is truly worth your close and careful attention today. If you regularly take anti-inflammatory medications for any kind of joint or muscle pain, ibuprofen or naproxen, for example, fall squarely into this specific category of medications. Peer-reviewed research has established that this class reduces your stomach lining protection significantly. That makes acid reflux, including the silent variety, significantly more likely to occur or worsen. If you take these medications regularly and your throat has been persistently bothered lately, please bring that specific connection directly to your doctor at your very next appointment. The second cause is one that tends to arrive quietly and go completely unnoticed. When people think of sinus problems, they instantly imagine the most dramatic version possible,
Intense facial pressure, throbbing forehead, nose completely blocked and making life miserable daily. But in many adults over 55, chronic sinus inflammation actually presents almost completely invisibly. Breathing feels mostly fine, and there's no significant headache to ever notice. And yet, the sinuses, mildly swollen and slightly overproductive, are draining steadily downward. Draining silently and continuously right down the back of your throat all day long. This is called post-nasal drip, and a 2024 clinical review published in the journal Medicina confirmed this approach very clearly. It concluded that nasal irrigation is an effective, safe, and genuinely low-cost treatment strategy. It is widely endorsed as a first-line adjunctive treatment by ENT specialists around the world. High-volume saline rinses work by physically removing all that inflammatory mucus from your sinuses. They reduce mucosal swelling and simultaneously improve the natural cilia clearance we discussed earlier today. The single most important word in all that research-backed guidance is simply consistency itself. 1 or 2 uses gives you only 1 or 2 days of very mild relief. Daily practice, applied correctly, produces cumulative and genuinely meaningful improvement that builds over time. The third cause is where I consistently see the most genuine surprise on people's faces. When patients come in and we start talking through their persistent throat complaints together seriously, their medications, the ones taken faithfully for months or even many years, go unquestioned. There's a class of blood pressure medications called ACE inhibitors that you need to know about. Angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors are prescribed many millions of times around the world every single year. They are effective, well-tolerated in most respects, and serve a genuinely important medical purpose daily. But they carry a well-recognized class-wide side effect that peer-reviewed research documents very clearly. They allow a substance called bradykinin to accumulate steadily and continuously inside the body over time. And in a significant proportion of people, studies report somewhere between 5 and 20% of users, that accumulation triggers persistent throat irritation and an ongoing and exhausting urge to constantly clear. Crucially, this is not an allergy, and it is nothing unusual happening inside your body at all. It is simply how the drug works mechanically, and your throat happens to be particularly sensitive. Here's the precise detail that causes this connection to be missed so consistently and completely. The side effect can take weeks or even many months to develop after first starting the medication. So if you began a blood pressure pill 8 months ago and noticed throat trouble 6 months ago, you may have never once connected those 2 separate events because they felt completely unrelated in time. But that exact timing alignment is precisely the pattern that research consistently describes and carefully documents. A large-scale study of more than 27,000 patients found something genuinely striking and important. Adults over 65 had a 53% higher chance of experiencing this specific throat side effect, compared directly to younger users on the exact same medication and the exact same daily dose. If you take a blood pressure medication and are unsure which class it actually belongs to, your pharmacist can tell you in under a single minute exactly what class it is, and if it does belong to this class, there are very good alternative categories available to you. ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers, control blood pressure equally well in most patients and most situations, and they do not carry this specific and frustrating throat-irritating side effect at all. That honest and direct conversation with your prescribing doctor is genuinely worth having very soon. The fourth cause surprises people not because it is complicated or difficult to understand at all, but because it is something most people have long dismissed as simply too obvious to matter: hydration. But let me give you the real physiology, because this goes well beyond simple reminders. Your mucus is mostly water, and its entire consistency depends directly on your hydration level. Whether it is thin and fluid or thick and sticky and very difficult to clear, that consistency is directly and entirely related to how well hydrated your surrounding throat tissue is. Think of maple syrup poured fresh from a brand new bottle right out of the store. Then think of that same maple syrup that has been sitting open overnight on your counter. The very same substance, but completely different behavior and completely different consistency in every way. Your mucus behaves in exactly the same way, based entirely on your current daily hydration state. Here is the specific aging-related detail that makes this far more than a simple daily reminder. Research has established very clearly that the thirst mechanism becomes significantly less reliable as we get older. A younger adult begins feeling thirsty well before they become meaningfully dehydrated in any measurable way. In older adults, that same early warning system becomes blunted and progressively less reliable over time. You can be dehydrated enough to noticeably affect your mucus consistency and your daily physical comfort. You can feel this full effect without feeling particularly thirsty or even slightly dry at all. Waiting for thirst to prompt you to drink means consistently and chronically operating behind the curve. A mildly dehydrated state maintained steadily day after day keeps your mucus persistently thick and sticky, and that persistent daily thickness amplifies and worsens every single other cause we have covered today. A practical fluid target that is referenced widely across clinical nutrition guidance exists specifically for you. Approximately 30 milliliters per kilogram of body weight per day, drawn from all possible sources.
Water, herbal teas, broths, soups, and water-rich foods all count meaningfully toward that daily target. But the true behavioral key is deliberate and consistent intake spread thoughtfully throughout the entire day, not catching up in one rushed large glass only when you finally happen to feel thirsty. The fifth cause is one that rarely ever gets discussed in videos quite like this one. And I think that represents a genuinely significant gap, because for a meaningful number of people, for older adults dealing with persistent throat mucus, the actual root of the problem lies elsewhere. It is not in the throat, not in the sinuses, and not in the stomach at all. It is in the gut, and most people never ever think to look there for answers. Here is what the most current research reveals about this fascinating and deeply underappreciated body connection. Your digestive tract and your respiratory system share important regulatory pathways through your immune system directly. The health of your gut microbiome, the trillions of living bacteria inside your intestines, matters enormously. It directly and measurably influences how reactive and how persistently inflamed your upper airways actually are. When the balance of the gut microbiome becomes disrupted, a condition called dysbiosis begins to develop. It can activate immune responses that begin promoting excess mucus overproduction in the airways above the gut. Not because anything is physically wrong with your throat itself in any direct or immediate way, but because the gut is continuously sending inflammatory signals that the respiratory system then responds to. This remarkable connection, now called the gut-lung axis, is an active and rapidly growing area of research. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have now confirmed that gut microbiome disruption can actively trigger airway inflammation. Research published in the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine confirmed this important link clearly. Animal model studies went significantly further and actually demonstrated a direct causal relationship between the two. When laboratory mice received gut microbiome transplants taken from patients diagnosed with chronic lung disease, those mice showed measurably and consistently increased airway mucus production as a direct and documented result. What disrupts the gut microbiome in older adults is not at all exotic or particularly rare.
A diet chronically low in fiber and fermented foods is one very significant contributing daily factor. Repeated courses of antibiotics taken over the years create lasting and meaningful disruption in gut balance. High sugar intake maintained over time and chronic unmanaged stress also play measurable and meaningful roles. You will never fix a gut-airway axis problem with a throat lozenge purchased at the pharmacy, but you absolutely can begin supporting your gut microbiome through consistent and deliberate daily dietary choices. Before I give you the full practical action plan, I need to pause for something important. Most of the time, persistent throat mucus in older adults is entirely benign and very manageable. It is exactly what we've been carefully discussing today, and it is genuinely addressable and fixable. But your body sometimes uses symptoms to signal something that truly requires professional medical attention soon. Please make an appointment with your doctor promptly if you notice any of the following signs. Mucus that is consistently tinged with blood, even in a very small or occasional amount. Difficulty swallowing that is gradually and progressively getting worse and worse over a period of time. Unexplained weight loss appearing alongside your persistent throat symptoms during the exact same period of time. A lump or a persistent and unexplained swelling developing anywhere in your neck that concerns you. A significant change in your voice that is simply not improving or resolving on its own over time.
These signs go well beyond what we have covered today, so please bring them directly to your doctor. Now, here is the practical action plan, and this is the part that truly matters most. This is where everything we have carefully covered today translates into real steps you can start tonight. Stop eating at least 3 full hours before you lie down to go to sleep. When you eat and then immediately recline, your stomach is still actively and vigorously processing that food, and the valve we discussed at length earlier has its very hardest time staying fully closed then. 3 hours of upright time after your last meal is one of the most evidence-supported behavioral steps available. Elevate the head of your bed slightly and make sure you do this the correct way, not with extra pillows stuffed under your head, which simply bends your neck in an uncomfortable position. Use a firm wedge placed directly under the headboard legs or positioned under the mattress itself instead. Even just a few centimeters of incline uses gravity to work very meaningfully in your favor overnight. It measurably reduces the amount of acid that can travel upward toward your throat while you sleep. Before you go to sleep tonight, drink 1 full glass of warm water very intentionally. This one simple act supports your overnight hydration and helps keep your mucus noticeably thinner through the night. That morning accumulation you dread will be noticeably less severe with this one small, consistent nightly habit. Tomorrow morning, before your first coffee and before your first bite of breakfast, do this immediately. Drink 1 to 2 glasses of plain warm water before you do absolutely anything else at all. This simple habit costs nothing and immediately begins rehydrating your body after a long night of sleep. It loosens the overnight accumulation of mucus before it has any chance to thicken and settle deeply. It is one of the most consistently reported and genuinely impactful changes people make in the first week. Get a nasal rinsing device from your local pharmacy and start using it as soon as possible. A neti pot or a squeeze-style rinse bottle will both work very effectively for this important purpose. Use water that has been properly boiled first and then cooled to a comfortably warm temperature. Do not ever use straight, unboiled tap water for nasal rinsing, as that carries unnecessary and real risk. Add a small pinch of plain, non-iodized salt and optionally a very small pinch of baking soda. That baking soda may help gently thin the mucus by neutralizing nasal acidity over consistent daily use. Use your rinsing device once every single day, preferably in the morning before starting your regular routine.
Give it 2 complete and uninterrupted weeks of consistent daily use before judging whether it is actually helping. Consistency is precisely what separates everyone who says it worked from everyone who says it did nothing. Make a dedicated appointment specifically to review your full medication list with your doctor very soon. Write down the complete timeline clearly before you walk into that appointment with your doctor. Note exactly when your throat symptoms first started and when you last changed or added a medication. If you take any blood pressure medication, ask directly and specifically whether it is an ACE inhibitor. Ask also whether an alternative medication in the ARB class might be equally appropriate and safe for you. Come prepared with your timeline written down clearly and your specific questions ready to ask out loud. To begin actively supporting your gut-airway connection, add 1 small daily serving of a fermented food today. Plain yogurt with live active cultures, kefir, or a small portion of kimchi or sauerkraut all work well. These consistent choices begin to meaningfully diversify and genuinely support your gut microbiome in measurable daily ways.
Research increasingly links this type of consistent microbiome support to meaningfully reduced airway inflammation measured over time. This is a long-term strategy built for lasting results and absolutely not an overnight fix for symptoms. But long-term strategies are precisely the ones that actually change your baseline and then keep it changed permanently. Set hydration reminders on your phone or watch so you never forget to drink throughout the day. Keep a glass or bottle of water accessible in every single room where you regularly spend your time. Eat more water-rich whole foods, including cucumbers, watermelon, warm soups, and soothing herbal teas every single day. Your mucus consistency will begin to noticeably and measurably improve within just a few short days of starting. A quick and honest word now on popular home remedies, because you have certainly tried some of them. Honey is genuinely soothing for irritated and inflamed throat tissue, and it is entirely safe to use. It can calm your symptoms temporarily, but it does not address any of the 5 real causes. Dairy does not create mucus from nothing, and the actual science does not support that popular claim at all. But some people do find that dairy proteins create a distinct sensation of increased thickness in existing mucus. If you personally notice a consistent and repeatable pattern, then a 2 to 3 week reduction trial is reasonable. Apple cider vinegar is very popular online and on social media, but please be genuinely cautious with it. For anyone dealing with silent reflux, introducing more acid into your system will only aggravate the underlying problem. Please be very thoughtful and appropriately cautious before trying that particular popular and widely promoted home remedy. Here is what I truly want you to walk away with clearly after watching all of this today. That persistent mucus coating the back of your throat every day has a real and specific reason. 5 possible reasons, actually, and most people have never had even a single one of them properly explained. Silent reflux happening quietly and consistently while you sleep, with absolutely no heartburn to warn you at all. Postnasal drip from low-level chronic sinus inflammation that never announces itself in any dramatic or obvious way. Medication-related throat irritation, specifically from ACE inhibitors, developing slowly and silently months after you first started taking them. Chronic mild dehydration running just below the threshold level that would trigger any obvious feeling of thirst. And gut microbiome disruption, sending persistent inflammatory signals that your airways are actively and constantly responding to daily. None of these causes require you to simply accept a life of constant, exhausting throat clearing forever. Each one has a practical and genuinely evidence-grounded response that is available and accessible to you right now. And none of the very first steps require a prescription medication or a visit to any specialist at all. They require knowledge, they require real consistency, and they require you to treat your symptoms as genuinely important signals. Treating your symptoms as meaningful signals worth responding to thoughtfully, rather than as a daily nuisance to manage. If someone has ever told you that this is simply what getting older naturally feels like for everyone, I hope today gave you a completely different and far more empowering lens through which to see yourself. You are not just aging. You are dealing with specific, identifiable, and entirely addressable physiology right now, and you deserve to know that fully and to act on that powerful knowledge starting right now, today.